What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Boozer here. Thanks for stopping by. We are on the test server today, so thank you, PlayerIn, for allowing us access to the test server. And we will be talking about some budget options for the Odin dungeon encounter that we have currently going on for the next 8 weeks. So if you guys are struggling trying to climb Odin, we're going to touch on some of his mechanics and things that we need to pay attention to. And I'm going to offer you guys a super budget team, at least in terms of champion accessibility. If you guys haven't checked out my 100% farm 100-second team for stage 30, it comes with basically free to play champions except for Seer. I know not everybody has Seer, but Seer was a guaranteed void epic at one point, probably last year. All the other legendaries are acquirable through logging in or by achieving things in the game. Keep in mind that we're talking about stage 30 here, so I'm hearing some comments about how people have only been playing for 3 months and they can't farm stage 30. Well, newsflash, you can't farm stage 30 if you've been only playing for 3 months, especially free to play, or I've yet to see that. But anyways, I'm going to offer you guys some options here for stage 30, and then we'll talk about some options that you can substitute or try yourselves if you so choose. So let's hop in here. So this is one of the more budget options that I had. Basically, it's still running Arbiter, but instead of Lydia, you're running Spider. So the good thing about Spider here as a champion is that his A1 has a chance to remove one random buff from a target, which seems pretty damn perfect against Odin and removing his block damage shield. Keep in mind that Odin does come with a 6-star Lightning Cage Blessing. And the Lightning Cage Blessing basically provides him a 75% chance of protecting his buff from being removed. So it's not going to be 100% consistent with his A1, but it's something, right? It's something. His A2 is another form of buff removal. This time it decreases the duration of buffs, which is even better because Lightning Cage, I don't believe, can protect against this. So if he uses his Spider uses his A2 into the block damage shield, he would place the decrease attack and then remove the block damage buff, which is super good. And then of course his A3, it's a 5-turn cooldown, not the best, but you only really need to use this once, and then afterwards you just use his A1 and A2. But it places decreased defense and a small weaken. That's a problem for some people for sure, the small weaken. And it's a place, it's not a hit. The important part about that is that, first of all, he doesn't weak hit. He won't weak hit, which is important because there's, for example, there's Valkyries. There's a Valkyrie on stage 30, and she's positive affinity against Spider, but he will place this instead of hitting, so that's really good. And he comes with a 25% speed in all dungeons. And Odin, as far as I know, is considered a dungeon unless they're coded something wrong, and it seems to work fine. So 25% speed there, so that's really good. His base stats not particularly good. That's the problem as well. 91 speed only, and he's relatively low HP, and not too bad, I guess, for an epic. But his speed is freaking horrendous. Why does PlayerIn do this to their champions? I don't know. But anyways, Spider, huge standout here. If you don't have Lydia, for example, definitely usable. For stage 30, it might be tough to get him up to speed if you're not at the stage where you have Lydia. You probably are not at the stage to do stage 30 in terms of just gear, even if you have some of the more accessible champions. I'm going to say that right now, but this advice applies to you guys climbing up. So like, for example, stage 20, stage 25, these substitutes will work. Okay, so other champions I'm going to talk about here. So we all know Arbiter. The thing about Arbiter is that Arbiter provides so much good in this fight. She gives the A1 weaken, which is good, just in case you want to only use somebody like Deacon Armstrong, for example, that has a speed aura and AoE decreased defense, but no weaken. So her weaken is good. This is really good. The decreasing duration, you guys see the theme here. Decreasing duration of enemy buffs is very good against Odin because of his Lightning Cage protecting his block damage buff 75% of the time. But the decreased duration is very consistent. And then she has, of course, the turn mirror boost, increased attack, big turn mirror boost here, 30%. That's the biggest one in the game, which is super important because of how much the turn meter gets manipulated by both the Valkyrie and Odin. So you once you start buffing your team starts losing turn meter. You won't get a turn, and then they will the enemy will get a turn before you, and then things start going haywire. So the big turn meter boost here is very important. It also brings like a heal, of course, and then she has the backup revive with more turn meter. This gives your team a lot of turns. The turns are important because you need turns to recover. You do take quite a bit of damage from, obviously any of the remaining adds. Odin, having ways to recover is very important. So Arbiter, very, very good in this battle. I think it was very hard to replace her. I do have some options to replace Arbiter, and that option would be Gorgorab. So Gorgorab here. Gorgorab is actually basically an Arbiter light. And his kit is actually very good for this battle as well. He has an A1, has a chance to remove one random buff. Yes, it's not 100% chance. It's similar to Spider, and Odin does have the chance to protect against this removal, but it's there. It's something, right? So it's really good. He also comes with like a mini turn meter boost. Only 15%. He brings a buff along the way. It's on a 3-turn cooldown. Not as good as Arbiters, but he's an epic. Only 15%, keep that in mind. And he also brings a revive with the heal, which of course is important if you're not running somebody like Lydia, for example, or Arbiter. His aura is not going to be very important here. He does run pretty low speed as well, 97 base speed, so it's kind of a little bit harder to get him fast, unlike somebody like Arbiter. But he's definitely a viable option as a replacement for Arbiter. Coming up next, so I was running Mithrala. I was running this type of team as basically my baseline for a budget team and looking for alternatives on what we can replace. So we said Spider to replace Lydia, running his aura for 25% speed. That's nice. We can run Gorgorab for Arbiter. And for Mithrala's spot, she basically brings some recovery. She also brings brimstone damage, poison damage, as well as some buffs, again for recovery. There's not really too many budget options here, but I found some champions that kind of work. And actually the best one that works is actually this guy, Beastfeeder. Beastfeeder brings increased speed, increased accuracy. So that's 2 buffs for you. Obviously, increased accuracy and increased speed is going to help out your team a little bit. Cut down the speed requirement, cut down the accuracy requirement, at least initially, because you can't rely on the increased accuracy on your whole team. After that, he does bring a shield, 20% of his HP, which is actually pretty significant. Because things like continuous heal can be stolen. A shield can be stolen, but a shield also protects you right away and also gets eaten up right away too. Obviously, having a straight heal is better, but it's still there, a little bit of protection. And his A1 brings decreased crit rate, not a big deal. But his base speed, this is a big thing too. His base speed, 110. 110, much easier to build this guy. He doesn't need accuracy because you don't really care about this crit rate debuff. So after that, he doesn't need accuracy. So one of the good candidates for a shield set. He can definitely be usable for 2 buffs. Increased speed is good, and then a bit of healing to recover. His passive is also extremely good. 10% every time he takes a turn, guys. 10% straight healing. So actually a very good champion for this encounter, just to kind of power your seer if you're going to bring seer, right? So I'm going to say Beastfeeder, very good. The other champion that actually kind of replaces Arbiter is actually this guy, Dazdurk. Dazdurk actually has a really good kit for this fight as well. He brings Leech, which is a form of healing, so it actually increases, the survivability and durability of your squad. He brings increased attack with the second best turn meter boost, so not as big as Arbiter. Arbiter brings 30%. Dazdurk brings 25%. Which is, obviously good. You can replace the Arbiter. And then he also brings a cleanse and then a heal and then continuous heal as well. Very, very good, especially for this encounter. Like I said, you need ways to keep your guys alive if you're not bringing a reviver. So a heal every 4 turns is very good. And then the cleanse is also very good. I did mention that a continuous heal can be a negative because Odin can steal the continuous heal and heal himself. And that's kind of one of the ways, if you have a very fragile team, having Odin stay alive longer can cause some failures. So the continuous heal, not the best for him, but the heal and the cleanse is very, very solid for Dazdurk there. I think personally, those are probably the best options for substitutes. Ninja can be replaced, but he's probably the best, cheap or accessible option for damage. You can definitely replace him with like Newt or Marius or other max HP damage dealers. Even like, I guess a Coldheart would work, but Coldheart's pretty squishy. But yeah, you could use somebody like Husk or something. Husk does bring AoE stun, so maybe that helps against ads. And Odin is void, so you can kind of just bring any kind of damage dealer there. You could also bring another support champion if you're really hurting to keep this team alive. But yeah, so I wouldn't replace Ninja since he is free and should be accessible to most people tackling higher content like this. In terms of other substitutes that I kind of tested myself, Ugo works well. He brings the block buffs, so you don't really need to worry too much about some of the speed stuff. Some of the speed stuff might not be because a lot of this, the way this team works is that you try to get your seer to go off before she gets kind of CC'd, before she gets stunned, right? So you need her to be relatively fast. But the thing is, like, Ugo does prevent the counterattack buff from going on, for example, on Odin. But she doesn't really bring like weaken. So, and she doesn't really bring buffs. That's the thing. You got to bring enough buffs so your seer can kill stuff, unless your seer is like, you know, not super strong. So yeah, I think Ugo just doesn't bring enough. That's kind of crazy to say, but she doesn't bring enough sometimes. And to replace Spider, you probably have to replace Spider with Ugo. The other champion that kind of makes sense is Archmage Helmet. Archmage Helmet can take the spot of like the buffer for the increased speed, for example. The problem is that Archmage Helmet doesn't really do anything else. He does bring stuns, but that requires him to have 500 accuracy plus 100% crit rate. Plus he needs to be fast. Yes, he has a passive that protects him from turn meter decreasing effects. So this is actually kind of interesting. So you can kind of build him slower than the rest if you want to compensate for turn meter stuff. So it's kind of interesting in terms of just like getting the speed order proper for him. For example, like I can build him at 275. He'll go before Odin, but my Beastfeeder, for example, I have to build close to like 290 to make up for this passive. So the passive is worth something there. He brings 3 buffs, which powers up your seer quite a bit. So, you know, there is some good about Helmet, but he just doesn't bring enough other than that. And he's super stat heavy. So speed, 100% crit rate, and the accuracy if you want him to be full potential. The stuns can be good, obviously control some of the ads, but we ideally kill the ads right away. So that's going to be the main goal. Kill the ads right away, and then obviously sustain your fight so that you can actually kill Odin. The other champions I did try, I have here like Mausoleum Mage. Mausoleum Mage brings multiple buffs. He also brings a cleanse and a heal, which is really good. Like I was saying, brings multiple buffs here. Unfortunately, it doesn't bring increased speed. So without increased speed, that just means the speed requirement on your team is going to be very high, even with somebody's aura like Spider here. So that's the one negative against Mausoleum Mage. After that, I did try somebody like Sanguina, which actually is like slightly, you know, low-key really good for this fight. Her A1 is a multi-hit decreased duration on 2 random buffs, and it's a very low chance. That's the thing. It's like I forgot what it was. It was like 30% chance 3 times is like 60% chance or something, 65% chance. So you have roughly 65% chance of reducing the duration of 2 random buffs. It's not super consistent, but it's an A1 and it can remove his block damage buff. So after that, as for providing buffs, she brings block debuffs and then continuous heal. So she gives you 2 buffs to strip off for the seer. And then she also has like a pseudo cleanse here with the debuff transfer. So the debuff transfer always happens, and then she has a cleanse on all allies. She's actually not too bad for like some kind of substitute for this team. Since she can power your seer, she can reduce the shield, and then she can obviously cleanse your team from the stuns and decreased defense. The decreased defense really hurts your team. It just creates some insane, you know, outcomes where Odin kills somebody, brings somebody back, and then it's kind of game over if you don't have an Arbiter for revive. So lastly, I did test as well Doom Priest. Doom Priest can help you soft cleanse the debuff, like, you know, stuns or decreased defense. It's really hard for me to kind of speed tune here. I spent a lot of time like playing around with all these champions to see how they work, but Doom Priest just didn't feel like she brought enough. Her A1 doesn't bring enough. Her A2 is just a single increased attack, and you can kind of see from the replacements or the champions that we are currently using, the increased attack is just one of the easier buffs to have. I did test Seeker as well. Seeker brings the big turn meter similar to Arbiter, so 50% increased attack and then 30% turn meter. Same turn meter boost as Arbiter. He also brings A1 provoke, which can be good against the ads. Also brings the increased defense. But again, he just doesn't bring enough. And if you want to build him with 500 accuracy so he can provoke, it's kind of like, okay, he doesn't bring enough buffs. He doesn't bring enough utility to the fight. Doesn't bring any healing. So I don't think he's a great option as well. So like I said, guys, Seer, unfortunately, is mandatory. Ninja, ideally. The big thing about Ninja is that he's a legendary. And Brimstone is actually a big chunk of damage. I would say Brimstone is probably 1/3 of the damage you deal to Odin in these types of teams. Definitely speeds it up if you can consistently land it. So having legendary is important. But in this video, I am showing you guys more like budget options. So for example, I think a team like this would probably work. I ran some teams like this with basically just full replacements for Mithrala, for Arbiter, for Lydia. And it's not as consistent. That's the thing. It's not as consistent. You can definitely work off of what I have and try to find a consistent team. But I think for stage 30, it's not as consistent. But definitely these teams will work for lower difficulties. I'll show you guys a run here. And like, I don't know if it's going to fail or not. But we can kind of see how it works. It's on full auto right now. So you go boost, buff, she strips, and then you go decrease defense. And then Seer should come in here and strip everything off. There you go. Okay, lucky. We got lucky here because everybody died. But my Seer isn't the strongest, right? That's the thing. If you have a really strong Seer, you can definitely cut down on some of the requirements. You see here the continuous heal is stolen, so he's going to pick up a little bit of healing. It's not the end of the world. It feels like he only steals one continuous heal, and then that's kind of it. So you see Ninja's really chipping in the damage there, especially when Seer takes 4 turns to get back to the Karma burn. And honestly, the HP burn is probably equal to like a full Karma burn at this level, at this stage. So yeah, you can kind of see how this run goes. The timing varies between the Brimstone procs and how often he gets the block damage, of course. You can kind of see Spiders A2 stripping the block damage there. That was really nice. On a 3-turn cooldown, Spider's definitely one of the best replacements for sure. The biggest problem is that he places a small weaken. He places a small weaken, so your Seer needs to be stronger. And he doesn't bring 2 buffs like Lydia in the same move. So you have to, you know, have a really, really strong. See, Spider's A2. Very, very good there, right? Just remove the block damage. Now Odin's soaking up some damage. And it looks like this team's working pretty good. But a lot of it comes down to having a good start, killing the ads properly. If you have a strong Seer, you're going to have a better time than I did. My Seer is literally, you know, 3-star blessing. If you have a 6-star blessing Seer, which you invested in from the beginning, then you're all good. You can probably farm this without too many issues. And if you have better champions than all of these replacements that I have, you're going to have a better time. For example, Arbiter. Arbiter is going to be better than Dazdurk. Like 100% upgrade, right? Yeah, so if you have any of those upgrades, if you have Mithrala, she's going to be a better upgrade than Beastfeeder here. And if you have Lydia, it's going to be a better upgrade than Spider here. But I just want to show you guys that there's definitely some options here that work against this boss. I did spend a lot of time going through a lot of the options and how they actually interact in this kind of fight and what you actually need to bring against Odin to make it work for you. Like I said, I'm only testing on stage 30. It doesn't mean that it won't work on lower levels with lower gear. You guys can use the mechanics that we went through here and build a team to properly handle this boss. It's going to be a bit easier on lower difficulty because the Valkyrie is one of the issues that that give you a really hard time on 30 here. So this fight, just under 3 minutes, but honestly, I had this team go minute 30. And it all comes down to the placement of the block damage or the placement of the brimstones, for example. And yeah, I hope this video showed you guys that it's actually very viable and possible to have, you know, basically options. It's not all about having legendaries, even if there are free legendaries, accessible legendaries. It's not all about the legendaries. You can definitely just make it work just by having, you know, the right things happen at the right time. But anyways, I'm going to show you guys the presets for this and explain some of that because there are some nuances and some things that I don't fully can explain properly because obviously I don't have like a built-in calculator or any kind of math. I just spend time playing with these comps and then I'll show you guys what I learned. All right, guys. So here's the team breakdown and the presets. So Dazdurk's going first. You need about 500 accuracy on anybody that lands a debuff, or if you want to remove a buff or strip a buff or reduce duration or whatever. You need about 500 accuracy for this encounter on stage 30. Obviously, scale down the stats. If you're doing lower difficulty, Odin is about 275 speed. But it's hard to calculate all of that because he does have turn meter pushback, speed pushback, and there is a Valkyrie there as well. So it makes things very, very complicated. But just expect that his 275 base speed is going to be much faster because of his pushback on your team. So we have Dazdurk going first at 308. I would recommend at least 290 or at least... he doesn't need to be 308. He needs to go first. So at least 275, but because of his buff, he's going to push back your team. So the rest of your team needs to be pretty close in speed so that they can get a turn or go in order. So Dazdurk 308, I think that's reasonable. You can probably go down like 280, 290 if you want. After that, we have Klodd going next. So he's going to land the increased speed, increased accuracy. 297, it's kind of beneficial for him to go fast just because of, he has that passive that heals your team and then he can get back to more shields. So he's kind of, good in that sense. He doesn't need accuracy because his only debuff is decreased crit rate, which is not super important. I got him in the shield set because it's, kind of nice to have a big shield set in the beginning and obviously easier to build him fast with no accuracy. After that, Spider's going at 280. With 486 accuracy. Obviously more is better, but Spider's going to come in with the increased accuracy to remove not strip, but like place his decreased defense and small weaken. 280 allows him to go. You can kind of see the turn order that happened in the video. After that, we have I believe Seer should have went, but for some reason Ninja went first. I think Seer's turn meter got pushed back and maybe Ninja resisted some of that pushback. So there is a little bit of, obviously wiggle there, right? But you wanted Seer to go first. I got her 255. I guess if you made her a bit faster, it would have been more likely for her to go first. I have her with flawless execution for plus 20 crit damage to deal damage. Accuracy, you want her with accuracy so she can help strip off some of the buffs and all that stuff. For example, if Valkyrie places her shield and she doesn't strip off the shield, then the shield would be taking damage and your Seer maybe will not kill that Valkyrie, for example, right? But yeah, definitely you want her with some accuracy. Lastly, Ninja. Ninja is quick with accuracy and he is in more of a EHP build as opposed to full damage build. So I'll show you guys the builds for this team and you guys can see what the level of gear you need. So here I got him in regen. Regen's nice to keep him alive. He's also probably going to take some hits once in a while. So any champion you can put in regen is nice. If you can't, then it might be a little bit tough. Just because we don't have the best, we don't have an accuracy aura, right? Like with Mithrala on the team, you can use an accuracy aura. The speed from Spider is nice, but it feels like the accuracy is a pretty tough check as opposed to 25 speed. So we got Spider here. I have Spider in immunity just for one extra buff because my Seer is not strong enough to kill all the ads consistently without the one extra buff. So I have him in immunity. Those are his total stats. No bonuses or anything like that. All these champions are fully booked with Masteries. I have Ninja, with Brimstone. That's very important. Masteries down to War Master and Life Drinker. That's very important. Spider here, I have him no blessings. If I did have him with blessing, I probably would give him Phantom Touch for some extra damage against Odin. Masteries, I have him full Masteries with the War Master here. Psycho Magic for some extra A2s. Sniper is very important for Spider because it gives him extra chance to land his decreased attack. It's not 100%. We're spoiled by 100% decreased attacks and landing debuffs from legendaries, but when you're talking about epics, they don't have 100% chance, some of them. So yeah, Masteries for him. After that, we have my Seer. He has to be in some ignore damage, ignore defense set, so savage, lethal. Yeah, and with accuracy to land her strip. Here 257 allowed me to get my turn in there before things start going crazy. Crushing Ren is probably still the best, even though it's only 3-star. If you have a 6-star, it's going to be a huge boost. Masteries, I took Flawless Execution. If you have an insane Seer, you're taking War Master, so you do more damage against Odin. I took damage first hit. I took 8% more damage first hit because it's important for me to kill them. After that, just kind of whatever. Okay, so that's Seer. And then we did use Dazdurk. So Dazdurk here, again, 500 accuracy is what you want to shoot for. Fast, whatever EHP you want to put on him. Skills, fully booked, of course. And then Masteries, I got him with War Master to deal some damage against the boss. Life Drinkers to heal up. Lasting Gifts, just in case something gets resisted, and then you can keep a buff. Snipers to give you extra chance of landing his leech. That's the only thing you're really using him for accuracy. If you do want to cut the accuracy, it makes sense because he only really has leech. But the leech is useful. That's the thing, to keeping your team alive. Okay, so, and then we have last but not least, Klodd Beastfeeder here. He is in the shield set, as I said. And he's quick. He doesn't need accuracy because his A1 is only decreased. Crit rate. Masteries, War Master, same kind of deal here. Lasting Gift, just in case some buffs survive. Life Drinker for some healing. Cycle of Magic for some more shields. Shield growth. Then increased turn meter for more shields and healing. So, some other negatives about this budget team is that, unlike Lydia, Spider doesn't hit on his decreased defense. It's good and it's bad, right? Because Lydia's hit actually gives her a chance to land her shield. So I have her with the Blood Shield Ring. So the Blood Shield Ring places a very baby shield if you deal damage. So since Lydia deals damage, she can land a shield, which is 1 extra buff. So the way this team works, the budget option team, you have a no touch, a no touch, a no touch. So you're actually potentially missing out 3 Blood Shield accessory buffs for Seer to rip off. So that's why I have to get 1 extra buff here from the immunity just to make my Seer strong enough. Whereas if it was Lydia, I could just put a Blood Shield accessory. But Lydia already buffs 2 buffs already. Just something to consider, guys. It's a lot of playtesting on my side, a lot of hours spent into testing out these champions for alternatives. Hopefully I gave you guys some alternatives here. I mostly tested some epics that worked, and most of them worked to various degrees, but I found that these epics were the best. I was actually surprised because unless you can use Gorgorab potentially is better than Dazdurk because of his A1. His A1 can remove the buff, even though it's only there's a chance for Odin to stop this, but his A1 is good. He has good A2, and then he has a revive, which is really good. He potentially is better than Dazdurk, but the thing is, his turn meter buff, Gorgorab's, is only 15%. This means that the rest of your team needs to be insanely fast so that they can get a turn, unlike Dazdurk, which is 25%. So I did test all that. Like I said, Arbiter is the GOAT. She is very hard to replace in this comp. She brings a lot to this team. She makes it a lot easier to gear his team out. I think replacing Lydia and Mithrala with Spider and Beastfeeder, I think is a lot easier than replacing Arbiter with Dazdurk. Just because of the revives, basically allowing your team to run much more consistently. But anyways, guys, thanks for watching the video. Hopefully you guys can come up with some ideas yourself, come up with some options so you guys can farm the new event dungeon. Best of luck. Make sure you guys take advantage of the free gear reset weekend that we have currently. And yeah, let me know in the comments below what works. Let me know, guys. Like I said, I spent a lot of hours play testing on the test server, trying to get you guys some options that work. I know you guys don't have all the champions sometimes, but we're talking stage 30 here. You guys have to have something. The gear here is obviously not, early game gear. But yeah, it is what it is. Anyways, guys, let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching as always, and I'll see you guys in the next video.